Hello students, let us study about the techniques of scientific management. So students, earlier also we have learned that there is always difference between principles and techniques. Principles, they are general guidelines for the managers to take decision and actions, whereas techniques, they are the methods or the process which involves a series of steps to be carried out to accomplish some goal. So when we talk about Taylor, he not only gave principles but he also devised some of the techniques so as to perfect the factory system of production. Taylor belonged to an era of industrial revolution, we have learned earlier also, and in the era of industrial revolution there was mass production. So if the production had to be increased, if the quality of production had to be improved, automatically there was need to bring about improvement in the factory setup in terms of tools, in terms of equipments, in terms of raw materials. Then only it was possible in terms of skilled and qualified manpower and by adopting the standard methods. This could be possible. And that is why he concluded that if these techniques which he has devised, if it is followed in the organization, it will always lead to mass production and bring about greater efficiency in the organization, and in this way it will lead to overall improvement in the industrial efficiency. So let us see. The first technique which he talked about was functional foremanship. Now foreman, we have learned earlier also when we were talking about the levels of management, and foreman is the position of a lower level manager, that is the first line of manager. Foremen also called as supervisors, and below them are the workers. So while working in the organization, Taylor, what he felt was that if the human beings and the human activities, they are properly divided, each and every activity is properly divided into different activities and supervised in a proper manner, it will lead to specialization, and that is going to improve the industrial efficiency to a greater extent. And that is why once he talked about this technique of functional foremanship, this technique basically focuses on extension of division of work. Extension of division of work to the shop floor level. Shop floor level means lower level of management. Shop floor level of management. Now he wanted basically to divide the work of foreman, because the position of foreman was such in the organization that to handle the job responsibilities of lower level management who were in direct touch with the workers, it required so many qualities, and it was not possible for one person to act as a foreman and supervise the work of the workers. One person cannot imbibe all the qualities which was required to work effectively as foreman in the organization. So once we say that extension of division of work to the shop floor level, that means divide the work of the shop floor level in such a manner that the work of foreman should be divided into 8 parts. If we try and understand it with the help of this diagram, it will be more clear. The division can be the factory manager's work. In a factory, there is a position of factory manager which is divided into 2 parts, the planning in charge and the production in charge. This is the middle level position, and below them are the lower level management positions, in which we see that if the work is divided into 8 parts, these are all foreman positions. Below them would be the workers working, workmen working in the organization. So if the work of the foreman is divided into 8 parts according to the quality which the person has, then we will see that the responsibility of that position can be handled in a proper manner. For this, each and every workman will be supervised by 8 bosses. 8 bosses. He will have to take orders and listen to all these 8 bosses who will be directly supervising them. But Taylor felt that in this way the guidance which is given to the worker can be better, and this will lead to better accomplishment of the goals. So once he tried to divide the work of foreman into 8 parts, factory manager divided into 2 parts, the planning in charge and the production in charge. Under planning in charge there would be 4 positions. Instruction card clerk, his work would be to provide instructions about the work, how the work has to be performed to the foreman. Then will be the route clerk, who will devise the schedule or the route through which the work will be performed. Time and cost clerk, who will be noting down the time taken to complete a work or an activity and the cost involved in each and every activity which is being carried out in the organization. And disciplinarian, the work of the disciplinarian would be to see that whatever rules and regulations they are framed in the organization, that is being properly followed. So this will come under planning in charge. Apart from planning in charge, there will be production in charge, and under production in charge also there would be 4 foremen working. This department will be production. Speed boss, gang boss, repair boss and inspector. The work of speed boss will be to see that the work is performed as per the plan. That means the speed of operation that is carried out by the workers. He should go according to whatever has been planned. Gang boss, very very important position. His work will be to make arrangements of all the equipments, tools, raw materials, whatever is necessary to carry on the work. The repair boss, the name itself suggests repair and maintenance has to be done by the repair boss, and inspector has to check the quality of the work from time to time to see that it is maintaining the standards. So in this way, if there is division of work in the organization, it will lead to improvement in industrial efficiency and will be perfecting the factory system. So the first technique which he talked about was functional foremanship. The second thing, or the second technique which he tried to devise, was standardization and simplification. Standardization means, you may say, all the activities of the organization that should be as per, that should conform to predetermined, you may say, benchmarks. Everything should conform to predetermined objectives. This can be in terms of size, shape, quality, design. So standardization means creating a benchmark for each and every activity which is being done in the organization. Whether it is in terms of raw materials, or it is in terms of size of any product, or it is in terms of shape, that standard should be defined by every organization. Because there are certain objectives of standardization. When the products are standardized, what happens? The first objective is it limits the line of product in terms of its size, in terms of its quality, in terms of its shape. Standardization limits the line of product line. Also standardization, it ensures interchangeability of parts of the product, of product parts. Standardization should always set standards in terms of quality of materials, standards in terms of men and machines, so that there could be a limit put to whatever is being manufactured in the organization, and in case of any problem, it can also be exchanged with that standard. For example, if it is a screw or a nut which is being manufactured, if that gets destroyed, if it is a standard product, we can replace it with some other product. So there should always be that kind of benchmark. So standardization always creates a benchmark. When we talk about simplification, there are two terms he talked about. On one hand, there should be standardization. On other hand, there should be simplification. Simplification means elimination of superfluous varieties, sizes and dimensions. Unnecessary, superfluous means unnecessary. Unnecessary varieties of product, if it is being produced in the organization, it should be stopped. Size, unnecessary. For example, if a shoe size generally 2, 3, 4, that is the size. If an organization is also producing 2.5 size, that half size, it should not be there. If the feet size, it can adjust between 2 and 3 or 3 or 4. That is superfluous. So in terms of varieties, in terms of size, in terms of dimensions, you should simplify the products, because this simplification will lead to saving of resources of the organization and making its proper use, and this will automatically lead to increase in industrial efficiency. The third thing which he talked about was work study techniques. It should be adopted in the organization, each and every organization. In work study techniques, he has talked about 4 techniques: method study, motion study, time study and fatigue study. Method study. Method study means for every activity which is being done in the organization, find out one best method to perform that work. Analyze the work, investigate into the different methods and take out one best method which can be adopted in the organization, so that it can save time, effort and lead to increase in productivity. If that one best method is adopted, automatically it will be useful. An example is of assembly line, which has been adopted by Ford Motors, and nowadays it has been adopted in many of the automobile companies, where we see that always there is the best method that is adopted in all the sequence of activities which is being performed in the production of the automobiles. So in this way, one best method has had to be found out. The second work study technique he talked about was the motion study. Each and every organization should try to focus on the movements. Motion means the movements, the study of the movements of the workers which takes place while performing any work. And this motion study should be done on 3 dimensions. He has talked about this. 3 dimensions. Motions which are productive, motions which are unproductive, and motions which are incidental. For example, going to stores. And what he said was that unnecessary motions that should be eliminated. If the movement is taking unnecessarily in the organization, that is simply a wastage of resources. And if those motions they are reduced or movements are reduced and there is need for technology to replace it, the organization should think on replacing or substituting those movements with the help of technology. For example, if 10 people are working in an organization and manually doing the work, and that can be replaced with the help of computers, one person sitting and completing all the work. Earlier there was so many movements, it could have been done, but for that the technology has to be there. So unnecessary movement should be avoided, and if the movements avoidance of those movements have to be replaced with the help of technology, the organization should be ready to replace it and train the workers to use the technology so that there can be saving of the resources and the efficiency can be improved. Then comes the time study. Time study means the standard time which is required to complete every activity, and if this standard time is defined by the organization to complete, it helps in so many things. It can help in letting know the, you may say, it can help, standard time can help you know who are able to complete the work timely, who are, that means efficiency and inefficiency. It can devise a day's labor also. If certain work has to be completed in a day, then how much time will be required to complete that work. For example, 100 units have to be produced, then how many workers will be required to complete those 100 units in a day. So those things can be devised, and for that proper stopwatches have to be used in order to devise the standard time so that it can be applied in each and every activity in the organization and the work can be completed timely. And this will certainly lead to betterment in output, betterment in efficiency, and it is going to increase the overall productivity of the organization. Fatigue study means always when we talk about the amount and the frequency, the 2 things I am writing, amount and frequency of rest intervals which is required in completing any work, because continuously a person cannot work. Always he requires some rest to work with the same efficiency for the whole day. If it is 8 hours work, 8 hours continuously a person cannot work. There should be some rest interval so that this fatigueness could be stopped and a person can be recharged and perform the work with the same efficiency. So all the work which is being done by the organization doesn't require the same amount of rest interval and the frequency of rest interval. The nature of the job, according to the nature of the job, the amount and frequency, two words, how much rest is to be given and at what interval the rest has to be given, it depends on the nature of the work which the person is doing. If person is manually continuously using his hand, then after some time he will have to be given more rest as compared to the one who is sitting in the office and writing something. So he can work for longer hours, then he will require that rest. But everyone gets tired. Fatigue means tiredness. So to overcome that tiredness and be, you may say, equally agile in completing the work, there is need to see that there is need for some rest interval to be provided, and this is what is called the fatigue study. So these were some of the techniques. Finally, he also talked about the differential piece rate system. Difference in the system of wage payment between efficient and inefficient workers. This is what is called the differential piece rate system. So the efficient workers, they will be paid more wages, as they will get more wages, I may say, as compared to the inefficient workers. And this technique, it always acts as a motivator. Name the technique of Taylor which acts as a motivator to differentiate between efficient and inefficient employees. It is differential piece rate system. Because if the rate of wage is according to the work which is being performed or the productivity which the worker is giving in the organization, then there will always be a difference between one who is producing more and getting higher wages and one who is producing less and getting lower wages. So what Taylor focused was that there should always be some standard which should be fixed to determine the amount of work which should be completed in a day to be paid at a higher rate, and below that standard a worker would be paid at a lower rate. For example, if in an organization, the organization is producing matchboxes and the standard is fixed that every worker, after work study and analysis, the standard has been fixed that a worker, if he is able to produce 10 and above matchboxes in a day, will be paid at the rate of 50 per box, and below 10 will be paid at the rate of 40 per box. Now if a worker produces 11 boxes, so he will be paid at the rate of 50, that is 550 in a day. And if a worker produces 9, he will be paid at the rate of 40, that is 360 per day. So you can see the difference in the wage which is going to exist between the two workers working in the same organization and doing the same nature of work. If the standard is fixed, the standard is not fixed like that. It is fixed after thorough investigation and study, and it is expected that an average worker should complete that much work in a day. And if the worker is able to complete more than the standard, that means it is a motivator for that worker to enhance its production more and more. And if the worker is producing less than the standard, this also acts as a motivator to improve its performance. So in this way, the difference in the wage, which is because of the difference in the performance of the work, can certainly act as a motivator for both efficient and inefficient workers to improve the performance and hence increase industrial efficiency. So in this way, these were some of the techniques which were devised by Taylor. I just need to conclude that never be confused between principles and techniques. Taylor has devised both principles and techniques, and there is always a difference in principles. Principles, they act as general guidelines based on truths. Techniques are the procedures, or you may say the methods or the ways which has to be adopted in the organization to perfect the system so that the efficiency can be improved and the productivity can be enhanced. Because Taylor observed these discrepancies in the organization and he wanted to improve the factory setup with the improvement in the efficiency of workers through management, but he devised these principles and techniques so that management, with the help of these guidelines, with the help of these standardized techniques, he can help the workers to carry out the work as per the expectations of the organization with the minimum of resources and maximum of output. So we end this part, and next we will be talking about Taylor's principles of management. Till then, thank you.